Hi everybody. So I wanted to do a quick little tutorial video on something that I think a lot of people struggle with, particularly in character animation, which is constraints. Um, and I have other constraint videos that show you how constraints work, but in this case, the problem with constraints in character animation is that you have to switch gears. You'll be in character animation mode, really focusing on how something moves, and passing, like a character has a sword in one hand and they try to pass it to the other hand, like throw it up in the air, and suddenly you have to switch gears and go into like rigging mode, and it's hard to switch that mindset, and so a lot of people avoid it or fight with it, and it ends up meaning that that transition looks bad. And so what I like to do is when I know I'm going to need to do that, I set up a small character, a small prop rig beforehand. And so this is an example of one. Now, this isn't an end-all be-all prop rig that's going to work for everything, but it'll work for a lot of stuff, and at least show you the structure that is pretty useful to create this. So what I have here is a platform. It's going to toss a ball over to here, and currently the ball is just sort of floating out here in space. And so it's going to toss it from the blue platform to the green platform, platform 1 to 2, right? And of course, the problem with constraints is if I just constrained this ball to this platform, well, then it's hard to actually animate this as well, right? Because we already have something else controlling the translates and rotates, and we have to do that blend parent thing, and that's annoying, and you have to try to remember what's what. And so instead, what we're going to do is we're going to have some other things controlling this. So I want to create a handful of locators. So a locator, if you've never really used one before, is just a tick mark in space, right? It doesn't render, but we have a node in here in the outliner, and we can see it in here. We can actually change its scale so we can kind of see, bigger or whatever. This is kind of just like a visible group a lot of times. Like, it's a way of maintaining some form of pivot point. So I'm just going to make like 4 of these. We can make a whole bunch of them. So I'm just hitting Control D, duplicating a whole bunch of them. So this first one, I want it to be in the same exact location as my ball. Well, now currently my ball is at 0, 0, 0 because I just created a sphere there, right? And so the easy way to do that for me right now is just to type 0, right? But there's actually a new tool inside of Maya in case this is at a different location than 0, 0, 0. To align this up, we can grab the locator and then grab the ball and say modify match transformations, and just say match all transformations, and it'll put it where we want it. This is a really nice tool that I have no idea why it took Maya this long to get that, but again, if we wanted this one over here, modify match transformations, and I'm just going to match translations and then match rotations, and so now that's in the same spot, right? I'll go ahead and undo that. So that's a really nice tool to be able to align stuff up. Okay, so we're going to name these. This one I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, just so we'll notice it's different. Right? And I'll call it ball parent. Okay? And I'm going to call these sockets. Okay, so we'll say socket A, socket B, socket C. Right. Now the point of this is what I want is for this this locator to be able to sort of plug into each of these sockets, and I want this ball parent to control the ball. So the simplest way to do that is just to middle click and drag the ball on top of ball parent and make it a child of ball parent. Like any hierarchy, now I can move ball parent anywhere I want to, and the ball will go with it. And I still have the ability to, move the ball around and outside of that ball parent. But if I move ball parent, it's still going to control the location of that ball, right? So that's cool. That's exactly what I wanted. Now, these three sockets, let's talk about what we're going to do with those. I'm just going to move them out here into different locations just so we can see this as an example. So we have these three sockets out here. I'm going to parent constraint our ball parent to each of these. But let's start with one just to see how this works. So you have to do it in the other way. You choose the parent first, then choose the child, constrain. And if I go to my options box, I'm going to say edit, reset my settings, and I'll show you how this works. So this isn't necessarily what you're wanting to happen yet, but just watch. So if I hit add, now socket A is not in the hierarchy. Like, it's not a parent of ball parent, but it's still going to control it as if it were, right? So the reason that happens is because of this little parent constraint node that is put underneath ball parent. Now, if I go ahead and delete that, that whole thing is gone now, and it doesn't control it anymore. So as you saw, it was maintaining that distance. So if I do that again, constrain parent, choose the options box, and I say uncheck maintain offset, what that's going to do is it's going to align both the location, the translation, and the rotation from ball parent to socket A. So if I hit add, you'll see now that they're on top of each other, right? And if I choose socket A and rotate it, socket B is going to rotate. And if I move it, or socket A is going to rotate. Now, the thing I'll point out is ball parent now has these things controlling it, right? It's these blue channels. That means that constraint is controlling it. And if I tried to move it, it would temporarily move it, but as soon as I did something with this, it would snap it back to it, because the thing that's controlling these translates and rotates is this constraint. So we can't keyframe that, but that's one of the reasons we parented the ball underneath it, because we can keyframe that, okay? So I'm going to do this to the ball parent with socket B and C as well. So I want to show you what happens there. So if I do socket B and do constrain parent, again, maintain offset is turned on. Well, so now you see that it's being half controlled by one and half controlled by the other, right? So 50% of one and 50% of the other. So I'm going to do that again with C. Constrain parent. And so now I have three things controlling this ball, okay? But they're all just controlling it a third. Right? And so that's not really going to give us the control we want, right? But if I choose ball parent, you'll see that each of these now under this ball parent constraint node, I could also choose this to see it. We have this socket AW0, BW1, and CW2. That's the weight of that, right? And so if I set the weight of socket C, right, if I set that weight to 0, then it's not going to control it anymore. Now it's still in that constraint, right? It's still listed in here. It's just currently set to 0, right? And so now the only two that are controlling it is this. And if I set socket B to 0, now only A is controlling it. And so now it's as if A is the only thing controlling it, right? But at any point I wanted to, I can set A to 0 and B to 1, and we get B completely controlling it. Right? Now A and C do nothing. Right? So this is what we wanted. All right. So now we have these three attributes, or these three objects, who can have complete control of the ball's location, and we can have some offset of the ball from that control. Right? And we can do whatever we want to with that to switch in and out. Now I'm going to make a slightly easier way of controlling that. I'm going to just go ahead and create a curve. You could also add this on the ball if you want to, but I kind of want the ability to keyframe this outside of the keys I'm going to set on the ball. So I guess we could also put a control around the ball if we wanted to, or something like that, but I'm just going to create a circle just sort of out here in space, just so we have something. Sometimes just so you know it's a control of a specific kind, you can do something weird to the shape. Grab some control vertices or something like that and just scale them. Right, so we get something like this. And so we'll just go ahead and make that our control, right? Just to clean all this up, I'll do modify for each transformations and edit, delete by type, history, and I'll just call this thing prop rig. Go we put control on there. Okay, now this object translates and rotates actually don't matter. I'm just using this as an attribute holder more than anything. In fact, if I didn't care where this went, I could actually hide all of these. Like, this is really just something so I can put some attributes on it. So I'm going to go to modify, and then I'm going to do add attribute, and I will do so we can name these whatever we want to, but I'll just go ahead and do socket A. So we probably have to take the space out of that. And I'm going to do a default of 0, a maximum of 1, and a minimum of 0. Okay, so that means the lowest this number can go is 0, the highest it can go is 1. And if I hit add, now I have this socket A information here, and you'll see the highest it can go is 1, the lowest it can go is 1, and I can transition in between there. So I'm doing it as a float just to be able to do that. So socket B 0, 1, 0, add, and socket C 0, 1, and 0. And so now I have these 3 attributes, and I'm going to wire them to these 3 controls. Okay. So let's go ahead and grab our attribute here, modify, and then we're going to do, I'm sorry, no, it's under Windows, General Editors, Connection Editor, and you'll see down here, socket ABC, right? And I'm also going to go ahead and grab this ball parent, and I'm going to reload that on the right. And so the way the connection editor works is whatever I select on the left and then select on the right, whatever's on the left will control what I selected on the right. All right, so we're going to go down here, socket A, so we can just do A is going to control A, B is going to control B, C is going to control C. I can hit close. Right? So now if I want to, I can actually hide this ball parent socket. Okay. That sucks. Let's see. I think I guess I don't need to hide it. There's a way we could do that, but we'll go ahead and leave it on just so we can see it. If you wanted to, you could scale it to where it was pretty small and just kind of out of your way. Oh, really? All right, don't worry about that. There we go. That'll work. So we can scale this local scale down to something pretty small, just so it's in there. We can still see it if we need it. But I'll go ahead and put that at like 0.1, right? And so now that's what that is, and we don't have to really worry about selecting it as much anymore, right? Okay. So now that we have that, we can see that by translating from 0 to 1 there, get that, and I can animate to socket B, right? And so this is a control now that we can completely control our switching between these 3 sockets. Now, I'm going to consider socket B, no, I'm going to consider socket C my world socket, right? So I'm just going to have it out here in the world. Anytime the ball is not being controlled by something else, it's being controlled by socket C. And we could even call this, if we wanted to, socket world. And so sometimes I make like 5 or 6 or 7 of these just in case I don't realize there's something I want to control this. And we can always add it later if we had to, right? But we'll go ahead and leave it as socket C. But and so what I really want, let's go ahead and let socket C be controlling that right now. So what I want is socket B to be controlled by platform 2 and socket A to be controlled by platform 1. So I could pretty easily do that just by parenting them underneath it. Right? Socket A could go under platform 1 and socket B could go under platform 2. I'm going to undo that because before I do that I want to align it up to it. So I'm going to go back to the beginning of my animation just so I know where they're at. Right? And do that match transformations thing. So modify match transformations. If I do match all transformations, it's going to scale it too. So I don't really care so much for that. I can always zero those back out, or I guess one those back out on the scale. But we could also do it as modify, and I could do match translation. No, I did it backwards, didn't I? I thought it was that way. That. Match translations, match rotations. So now they're in the same starting point, right? But they're not parented in any way, so when the platforms start moving, they're going to leave them behind, right? So I'm going to go ahead and parent them under there now. So socket A will go under platform 1. Right? Socket B will go under platform 2. Okay. Now these are things I can animate now, and again, as the platform moves, the sockets will move with it, right? And so at any point that I want my ball to be adhering to platform 1, I can just turn on 1, turn off socket C. Right? Now you'll see that I get some offset there. So there's two different ways I could fix that. I could actually move the ball up, or I could move my socket up. Right? So the socket always stays right there. Right? So both of these are animatable now. And that's pretty cool. And they're still going to stay with the platform. Now, around frame 25, that transitions from... actually, let's go ahead and save here, just in case. So, around frame 25, that is probably... 24, 25 is about when I think the ball would go up in the air, right? Probably 25. So 24 is really the last frame I want platform A controlling it, or platform 1 controlling it, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and set a keyframe on frame 24 on this. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and hit S, right? Now, over the period of one frame, I want something else to take control of it, right? And that's socket C. I want the world to take control of it. So I can go ahead and turn on socket C, turn that off. And the problem with that is by doing that, over one frame, it pops up to there, right? Now, the beauty of this system is that this socket is still fully animatable, right? So if I wanted this transition to work smoothly, all I have to do is align it to this locator, right? All I have to do is align socket C to socket A. So again, I'll go ahead and leave that menu open. I can match translations, match rotations, and so you'll see what happens is at that point it lets it go right at that point there, right? So on frame 24, I can select my socket C and have a keyframe there, right? Now, let's say I want it to catch this ball over here. It looks like I want that transition to happen right at frame 50. So at frame 50, I'm just going to go ahead and align it over here. Okay. Now, unfortunately, that's not really where I want socket A to, or socket B to be. So let's go ahead and move that up a little bit, kind of similar to what we had on the other one here. So there, and so I want socket C again to align with socket B. Right. Maybe a little high. Again, socket B. That's probably a better way of doing this, but so let's try there. That looks pretty good. All right. And so what happens now is over time that transitions over and aligns with socket B on frame 50. Well, let's just go ahead and make that transition happen from frame 50 to 51. Right? So on frame 50, I still want socket C completely controlling it. Okay. On frame 51, though, I want socket B controlling it. So 1 on that. And I can go ahead and hit S to set a keyframe on that. And so what we get is it lets it go and then transitions over to there to catch it. Right? So currently this has a start keyframe and an end keyframe. So if I just put something in the middle here that made more sense, let's go ahead and take that rotation out of it, moved it up, and again I'm just animating socket C. Right? Let's put that closer to the middle, maybe somewhere through there. Right, then what we get now is sort of that. Right. Now, this is a little bit of a weird transition, but I could go in here to my graph editor, Windows, Animation Editor, Graph Editor. Right. Go ahead and break some tangents on my translate Y, because I'm guessing that's my up and down. There we go. Actually, it doesn't look very centered, but there we go. Let's try something like that, and just see what we're getting here. So to me, that actually looks like it's releasing it a little early. So the cool thing about this is, to fix that, all I need to do is grab all of my sockets and my rig control, and we can see that those all line up now. Right? The beginning keyframe here where this starts moving, and the ending keyframe. So if I want that to happen a frame earlier, I just move it a frame earlier. Now it's going to mess some stuff up, right? Because that's not aligning on frame 23 anymore. Right? So what I'm going to do is just realign that. I need to just leave that window open, don't I? So we'll match all. Right? And so what happens now is right there on that keyframe, it looks a little bit more like it throws it. So some of that may actually be in my animation. Yeah, I feel like that's tossing it a little hard. So yeah, some of that is just in the socket C's transformation or animation, but we're getting a smooth single frame. Some of that's the arc too. It used to be like that. So it's create an editable motion trail, and I would of course play around with the. Probably what's happening is it probably wouldn't pop up quite that much because of the way the platform is kind of scooping. So let's actually just delete that keyframe. See if we can do this with some curves. So that's pretty good. And then my translate X is the forward and back. Let's go so that's linear. See what that feels like. So it still feels like it needs to pop up just a touch more. It's not quite so sharp, so yeah, I still feel like maybe some of the forward and backward motion is the issue here. So like right here, maybe my translate X does need to be set to linear. Let's try that. So now obviously it feels like it just sort of suctions to the blue platform or the green platform. So we have a couple of options on how we animate that, right? I mean, once it transitions here on frame 50, right? Well, now socket B is completely controlling it, so we are free to animate socket B bouncing up and down on that platform. This is really more on 51, socket B bouncing on that platform, or we could instead of animating the socket, we could actually animate the ball. Right? So I may do that. Like it contacts pretty hard on 50, but now that is completely controlling it. So I could animate just a little bit of up and down on the ball, just a little bit of a bounce right there from 50 to 54. All right. And then maybe another tiny one there. So let's see what that looks like. And of course I would need to do just a little bit of graph editor work on that. Translate Y. Just to make that bounce feel a little bit better. Now let's see what that looks like. So we're able to sort of create a pretty simple rig, and most of it is got controls now. Now I'm using these locators. You could use actual controls, like another NURB circle if you wanted to, or whatever. But between those four objects, I can animate this ball all over the place and have some pretty decent control of it. So and then whenever we're done, of course, we can just uncheck or stop showing NURB circles, stop showing locators, and what we hopefully have will look like a pretty decent animation. I'm still not completely happy with how it comes off that platform. I actually think that some of that's to do with the animation of the platform. So the nice thing about this is whenever you make a change to this, this is going to sound like not a nice thing, but whenever you make a change to this, it's going to mess up your animation, right? But it's actually a pretty easy fix. So let's say I did change this ball on, or this object, and had it instead push a little bit harder up there and pop that up like that, right? Well, now that transition pops right there. But we still know what frame that transition happens on. It's still from 24 to 25, or 23 to 24, that's right. So I just need to make sure that this locator is aligned, like the locator C is, or socket C is aligned with socket A on frame 23. So we'll go back to modify, match all, right? And so that's the way we fix that, right? And so let's see if that looks a little better. Yeah, that's feeling a little bit better now. Right. So this is a little, feels maybe a little dense because there's still 4 things for us to animate, but we can see all 4 of them, and we have this visible control of which socket we're going to be animating. We don't have to dig around here in this this node. And like I said, if we wanted to break these connections, and we could do lock selected and hide selected, then now this control is actually just the only thing on there, right? So this makes it a little easier. But this allows us to animate over a single frame and still get everything aligned pretty well. Okay. So hopefully this has been helpful. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.